The Steelers travel to M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore on Saturday for a matchup that might decide the AFC North Championship for the 2024 NFL season. Welcome in to the Steelers Talk Week 16 preview. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today we're breaking down team trends. We're breaking down keys to victory. I've got my Lamar Jackson scouting report, and I'm going to finish up today's show with my official score prediction for this Week 16 matchup. Will the Steelers get the season sweep and lock up the AFC North? Make sure you guys stick around to the end of today's show to find out. But we will be going live on Saturday night for this game here. Our coverage will start at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time with an hour-long pregame show. Then we got instant reaction and live play-by-play during the game, and then an extensive hour of extensive post-game coverage as well. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to join us live on Saturday. And make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you're Coop's booing, because we've got Trader Joey this week. He used to be kind of our assistant producer here on Steelers Talk. A lot of you guys will remember him during the summer, but he was offered the Ravens job, and he jumped ship immediately. And you know what? He has a little bit of a message for Steelers fans this week as we get ready for a sub-battle.
Steeler Nation, hope you've enjoyed being at the top of the AFC North. That's not going to happen much longer when y'all come into M&T Bank Stadium and get destroyed on Saturday. Russell Wilson guaranteed 2 picks. TJ Watt, is he even going to play? I don't know. I think he's faking the injury. He's soft. See you guys Saturday. You're not going to want to miss it.
So Joey's feeling pretty good about this week, especially because the Ravens Rundown got more subscribers than us on this morning's video. So we got to take back the lead here, guys. Ravens Rundown, Trader Joey, he left Steelers Talk. We got to show him who runs the AFC North right now. So if you're a new viewer, you haven't clicked that subscribe button, click that subscribe button right now and help us win our sub battle this week. Okay, now let's get into this matchup here, man. The 10-4 Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Baltimore to take on the Baltimore Ravens, currently sitting at 9-5. And back in Week 11, the Steelers ended up getting the victory by a final score of 18-16 at Acrisure Stadium. Once again, Mike Tomlin did a number on Lamar Jackson, just 16 of 33 completion percentage for just over 200 yards on 33 pass attempts, a touchdown and an interception. Derrick Henry had a big fumble early in the game. Shout out Nick Herbig on just 16 carries, had 65 yards. So that was arguably the worst game for Derrick Henry this entire season. And then Russell Wilson, no touchdowns in that game, but was pretty efficient. And at the end of the day, was able to deliver the victory for the black and gold. And just like it usually is in this rivalry, it's low scoring, it's under 20 points for both teams, and it's a slugfest, all right? Now, I do think that the Steelers have some bad trends heading into the week, all right? So before we get into the team trends, all that stuff, Mike Tomlin's not good on short weeks. Plain and simply, guys, we know this based on his record on Thursday Night Football. If you give him less time to prepare, Mike Tomlin's usually not the best. All right, number 2, if TJ Watt's not on the field, the Steelers are 1-10 without him in his career. That is not a good number if you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So if Watt isn't on the field, that decreases the Steelers' chances significantly of winning, in my opinion. Then also, you just played an extremely physical Philadelphia Eagles team. And if you know anything about playing teams like the Chargers, the Eagles, and even the Steelers, once you play those types of physical ball clubs, it can be tough, especially on a short week here, to recover and play good football the following week. So that's definitely not in the Steelers' favor. Plus, the Steelers have 5 starting players that are questionable to play in this football game. TJ Watt with that low ankle sprain, he's going to be questionable. George Pickens, of course, will be questionable with that hamstring. Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette says that he does not expect Pickens to play in this game. Larry Ogunjobi's questionable with the groin again. Dante Jackson left last week's game with a back. And Deshaun Elliott, of course, is dealing with a hammy as well. So hopefully as many, at least like 3 or 4 of these starters can be on the field for the Steelers, because if like 4 or 5 of these guys can't go on Saturday night, that's not going to be very good if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So let's take a look here at what the Ravens have done so far this year. And honestly, kind of a slow start. They lost to the Chiefs in the opener. Then you lose to the Raiders at home in week 2. That one's still kicking them in the balls a little bit. But then, they started going on a win streak. They won 5 in a row, including a game against the Commanders and all these different teams. And they've beaten some good teams this year. The Broncos are going to be ending up making the playoffs. The Chargers are going to end up making the playoffs. They have lost to the Steelers and Eagles in recent weeks, but they just came off a very convincing victory versus the New York Giants by a final score of 35-14. So our opponent this week, Okay, it's the Baltimore Ravens, obviously. So you take a look at their scheme. We broke this down in our Week 11 preview, but just a refresher here, Todd Monken is their offensive play caller. He runs a modern pro spread style of offense, lots of shotgun, lots of spread formations, likes to give Lamar Jackson easy answers at the line of scrimmage. Then also, Zach Orr is their first-year defensive play caller. He has struggled at times this year. They run an aggressive 3-4 style of defense, kind of in the vein of the Mike Macdonald defense that they ran last year. But if you ask me, Zach Orr isn't nearly as good of a play caller as Macdonald was last season. So let's start with the offensive side of the ball for the Ravens here, and the key players that you're going to have to keep your eye on Sunday. Obviously, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, King Henry, and then a couple of decent receivers. Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman in particular has been really good as of late. Then Mark Andrews has played really well this year. I mean, remember in the opener when we said, man, Isaiah Likely looks like he's going to take over from Mark Andrews. Andrews has said not so fast, and he's had one of the best years of his career so far this year. Take a look at the team trends this season. The Baltimore Ravens, by the numbers, are arguably the best offense in football. But as we know, and if you've been following this rivalry for a while, Mike Tomlin and this Steelers defense have Lamar Jackson's number. So we'll talk about that later in the keys to victory, but just take the Ravens offensive stat rankings with a little bit of a grain of salt. Plus, the Steelers forced 3 turnovers on the Ravens in their previous matchup, and they're currently first in the league with 30 total turnovers. So the points per game trends here, 29.9 points for the Ravens, 18.9 points given up by the Steelers, would predict 24 points for the Ravens. But again, guys, remember, take the Ravens numbers with a grain of salt because the Steelers defense usually does a lot better than the NFL average against the Baltimore Ravens offense. Then we get to the defensive side of the ball. Kyle Hamilton is a big-time safety for them. Marlon Humphrey, really good physical corner on the outside. Justin Madubuike can certainly be a menacing presence on the inside. He just got paid. They've got a lot of really talented players on this defense as a whole. And now you take a look at the other side of the ball in terms of the team trends here. The Ravens defense has not been great this year, but they have been playing better lately. They started the season off as one of, if not the worst defense in football. Now they started to play a little bit better lately, so that's something to keep in mind with the Steelers not playing nearly as well with George Pickens being out the last 2 weeks. And they just haven't been good in the red zone period since Russell Wilson has taken over. Their 31st in the league in the red zone with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. The points per game trends here this week for this side of the ball, Steelers are averaging 18.9 points per game on offense. Ravens are giving up 23.7 points on defense, so that would predict the Steelers score 21 points on Sunday. And of course, that would predict, if you go by the trends here, that the Ravens will win this game by a final score of 24-21. But again, guys, take it with a grain of salt because Lamar Jackson is just not very good against Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So still to come here, keys to victory versus the Ravens. I got 5 things the Steelers need to do to come away with a win and lock themselves in as 2024 AFC North champions. And then not Week 11 score prediction, my Week 16 score prediction is coming up here momentarily as well. So make sure you stick around to the end of today's show. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is focused on togetherness this holiday season. And that means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better. Plus, if you're looking for a last-minute gift, Game Time is perfect to get some last-minute tickets for the person in your life they still need to get a ticket. They still need to get a gift for. And Game Time has a brand new feature on their app called Game Time Picks, which makes getting tickets for live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You just select one button, the Game Time Picks filter, and it automatically filters through every single ticket in their database for that event to find you the best tickets with the best prices, with the best views, so that you and your family can get the best deals on every single ticket you buy on their platform. So what I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, all-in pricing so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to game time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. It's just for that first purchase, guys. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. First key to victory for Pittsburgh this week is to execute the quote-unquote Lamar Jackson plan, as Mike Tomlin calls it. They had their Joe Burrow plan, as they showed on HBO's Hard Knocks, and they alluded to a Lamar Jackson plan. And obviously, as we know, Mike Tomlin's done a great job executing that plan versus Lamar Jackson, who has been a perennial MVP candidate in this league since taking over as the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens. You guys take a look at my scouting report for Mr. Jackson, as Mike Tomlin likes to call him. He's a dynamic rusher, arguably the most dynamic in the game. His arm talent is legit. He can throw it from his hip. He throws it with really good accuracy. The playmaking, both as a passer and as a rusher outside of the pocket, is world class, and his pocket presence is really good too. It's really tough to put him on the ground. His cons are honestly hard to find, guys, but honestly, if you put some pressure on him, you don't give him lanes to escape, that can certainly mess with him a little bit, and he's not as good processing against man coverage as he is against zone coverage, which is what he's seen mostly in his NFL career. So how Mike Tomlin stops Lamar Jackson, it's a combination of a couple things. All right, it's man coverage and blitzing. More specifically, 5-man dog blitzes, as Mike Tomlin likes to call them. So it's just sending 5 guys, which eliminates that extra run lane for Lamar Jackson to exploit, and you play man-on-man coverage with a single high safety up top. That's how the Steelers attack Lamar Jackson. It's a pretty simple game plan, but you got to execute it at a high level, and man, do the Steelers execute this plan, and they know how to play against Lamar Jackson. Jackson in his career versus the Steelers in games where he has more than one pass attempt, 56% completion percentage, 213 yards passing per game, a whopping 22 sacks in 5 games. That is unbelievable, guys. And then 5 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So Mike Tomlin shuts down Lamar Jackson. They're going to try to do that again this week. Then once again, the Steelers are going to be looking to contain King Henry again. They did it back in Week 11 when this team ended up winning, but it's going to be easier said than done to do it 2 times in one season, especially when King Henry is going to be in his castle, in his house, and in his kingdom, baby. And, you look back to Week 11, the Steelers did a great job on him, man. Just 13 carries. They really forced Lamar to throw it a bunch. He only had 65 yards. He had a touchdown, but he also had a key fumble where Nick Herbig was able to pop that out on the first drive of the game, which really set the tone for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the entire afternoon. Third thing, and just like they did in that game against the Baltimore Ravens previously, you got to get an early lead. You got to set the tone and set the precedent, and you got to really force the Baltimore Ravens to think about throwing the ball with Lamar Jackson more. Because if this is a King Henry game instead of a Lamar Jackson game, that doesn't benefit the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh wants Lamar throwing it as much as they can. The more Lamar throws, the more Baltimore loses. Plain and simply, the more they run it with Derrick Henry, the more they win. So if the Steelers can force the Baltimore into pass-heavy situations, we know Mike Tomlin and his plan to alleviate the talents of Lamar Jackson is the best in football. So the more that the Steelers can force the Ravens to go against their normal game plan, the better as far as I'm concerned. The best way to do that is get a lead on these guys early. Number 4, key to victory for Pittsburgh this week is to let Russ Cook, and the reasoning for that is twofold. Number 1, Baltimore is really, really good at stopping the run. In fact, they're the best in terms of stopping the run in the National Football League this year in terms of yards per carry allowed. They are number 1 in the National Football League this year at stopping the run in terms of the yards per carry efficiency. They don't give up explosive plays, and they don't give up that much on a down-to-down basis. And then you pair that, number 2, with the Steelers' lack of an explosive and efficient run game. They're currently 30th in the NFL in yards per carry on offense this year. So plain and simply, last week versus the Eagles, the Steelers and Arthur Smith kind of neutered Russell Wilson a little bit. They need to let him loose. They need him to cook. They need him to do his thing, and they need him to be on his game, to put up points in this football game, come up clutch in the fourth quarter if it's close. And, last time that he played against the Ravens, he didn't necessarily play his best game in the entire world, if I'm being completely honest with you. He didn't get into the end zone in terms of passing the football. He did have an interception, and he just had over 200 yards. So it was not Russell Wilson's best day at the office when he played against this Ravens team a few weeks back. It's going to have to be better this week, in my opinion, especially if George Pickens is not on the field on Saturday afternoon. And it really is and to me, especially if you don't have George Pickens here, guys, the key to the passing game is getting the ball to your playmakers in space. All right, and this is why Arthur Smith needs to bring back the running back screen. They ran pretty much none of them in last week's loss against the Eagles. So I'm talking about Calvin Austin III, Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris. With George Pickens off the field, those 3 guys are the most dynamic players you have in open space. So I'm talking about drag routes for Calvin Austin III. Get some shallow crosses going, running back screens. It doesn't have to be downfield passes here. You can still throw the ball short and protect Russell Wilson, but you got to get these guys space to run, and those are the three guys you got to do it with. But obviously, hopefully, George Pickens, we hope he's on the field because this team goes from the third best offense in the league in terms of total yards per game to dead last in total yards per game when George Pickens is not on the field. So obviously, George Pickens being on the field could be an X factor for the Pittsburgh Steelers in this football game, and I'm really hoping that he's going to be able to give it a go. But obviously, if there's a chance for re-injury, I'm not risking having this guy being injured for the postseason, so you got to be able to balance that. So my final key to victory here for Pittsburgh is you got to want it more than the Baltimore Ravens. And this was a key to victory for me back in Week 11. And whenever you play these kind of grinded out AFC North, defensive-heavy football games, it's going to come down to one play or two plays in the fourth quarter that's going to decide it. So you can't have stupid penalties. You can't take a stupid sack. You have to be able to force a turnover, create a stupid sack, get a strip sack fumble, make a play on special teams. The team that makes the play in the fourth quarter is going to come away with the victory. And for me, guys, it always seems like the Steelers is the team that comes away with that play in the fourth quarter. So I can't pick against the Steelers in this situation. I'm going to pick the Steelers to win this week 20-17 on a last-second field goal or touchdown in an absolute barn burner Saturday afternoon. I can't wait to watch it with you guys on the Steelers Talk Watch Party. So now let me know down there in the comment section. I think 2017 Steelers win. What do you predict for this weekend's game between the Steelers and Ravens? Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments section. And again, guys, make sure you click that subscribe button because we will be going live on Saturday afternoon starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the Steelers Talk Watch Party. Breaking this entire game down for you guys. It's going to be the biggest game of the season to this point. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure you click that subscribe button right now.